If you learn how to recruit and build and lead a real A team of professional leaders, then this day, here today, can be your Independence Day. All right, an exciting day we've got ahead of you. Today is graduation day. Graduating from being a laborer to a leader, from a serf to a kingmaker, a producer to an enterprise builder. I know many of you have built the business that you have now, mostly by brute force. Simply on the sheer intensity of your will, the veracity of your spirit, the blood, sweat, and tears of your hard work, the magic and salesmanship of your charisma. But now it's likely with that your business is mostly still dependent upon you. And even if you do have people working for you, most often what you really have are a big group of assistants, people waiting around to be told what to do by your instruction, versus executive leaders who can independently lead and drive the business without you. If the business cannot operate, grow, and thrive without you, you don't have a business. You have a job. You have an obligation. You have a never-ending burden. You are Atlas, and the enterprise is always riding on your shoulders. So it's time for you to shrug that off to the leaders who can help you gain financial and time freedom once and for all. By the way, that description is how most businesses operate, completely dependent upon the owner or leader, but not you, not anymore, not after today. If you learn how to recruit and build and lead a real A team of professional leaders, then this day, here today, can be your Independence Day, the day that you were released from the bondage of your business and learn how to build a scalable, high-impact enterprise that finally achieves that ever-elusive goal, abundance and freedom in your life. So you'll want to mark this day in your calendar forever. Today we're going to talk about building your high-performance team. Because as we've said, the bigger the dream, the more important your team. The success of all of that will be dependent upon what you learn today. Learning to build your dream team to pull off your big dreams. Today I will share with you exactly how we do what we do. This is drawn from my 34 years in business building teams across 12 different industries, building local teams, national teams, global teams, teams in a central office, and teams that are 100% distributed virtually. And then the lessons drawn from sitting knee to knee with some of the most successful business leaders and builders and world-class team builders in the world. In total, we have 20 people that are part of our A team. Colleagues of mine who have maybe an equivalent revenue to our output have 130 to 150 employees or more to not do as nearly as much as we do. So today what I want to do is I want to teach you the methodologies that I've learned and applied that allows me to get a 20x greater revenue per head count, more than the most profitable public companies in Silicon Valley. If you learn what we do here today, this will be a very, very profitable day for you if you pay close attention. This one day will allow you to shortcut 30 plus years of hard-won lessons on how to build an A-player team and cultivate a high-growth culture. I'm going to walk you through the 6 vital factors of all the things that you could do to build, recruit, onboard, lead, motivate, train, incentivize your team. It comes down to a half dozen vital factors to building a high-performance team. As you know, there are 6 factors to assess the vitality, longevity, health, and well-being of your body: blood pressure, pulse, temperature, respiratory rate, height, and weight. These are the 6 vital factors for the vitality, longevity, health, and well-being of your organism, your organization, your team. And so it starts with culture. Your culture is the first vital factor and your ultimate distinguishing factor. Here's a good one for your notes. You can copy a company two-dimensionally. You can copy their products, you can copy their service, you can copy their technology, but you cannot copy its heart and soul. That is what makes all the difference. An organization's culture is organic, it's authentic, and it's original to the organization, and it's original to the leader who leads it. People are loyal to culture, not strategy. They are loyal to the tribe, the people in the organization and environment. People are not loyal to missions or goals, products or services or brands or even a paycheck. Just look at the military. My good friend Dave Leniger volunteered for 4 tours in Vietnam. And I remember asking him, I'm like, Dave, why did you volunteer once, but then why did you keep going back? Maybe even when it fell out of favor politically and societally. And he looked at me deadpan in the eyes and he says, I went back for my brothers. As long as they were in danger, I was going back to protect them. So he went back for the people, not the mission, not the paycheck certainly, the people. And from a strategic standpoint, as Peter Drucker famously said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can't get results optimized without culture. Leaders spend an imbalanced amount of time between strategy, new ideas, and execution versus people, purpose, and culture. Now, no doubt that strategy and execution is important, but if you want to turbocharge your strategy and execution, you need to have highly engaged people. And that comes down to creating a high-performance culture. So, what is culture then? Okay? You're going to want to write this down. Culture is the underlying operating code, an organization's essence. It's its ethos, it's its character, it's its personal philosophy, it's its mindset, and most importantly, it's its actions. A culture is how the people in the organization behave. That's what culture is. The philosophy and behavior of the people of the organization. In the end, your culture equals actions. Your culture is the behavior of the group. Culture is an organization's predictable actions. It's not pretty words, it's actions. Write this down. Clients don't experience your mission, vision, or values. They experience your behaviors. They experience the way things happen implicitly and explicitly inside an organization. That's what defines the smell and feel of the place, the culture of an organization. This is Laszlo. He worked at Google for 10 years and grew the Google workforce from 6,000 to 76,000 employees. And he says, quote, failures of culture have been the single biggest destroyers of value in the last 5 years. Culture influences decisions, and decisions make or break business. So the big question then is, how do you shape culture? Is it bringing in foosball tables? Is it office massages? Is it catered lunches? Is it group yoga in the parking lot or on Zoom? Is it on-site mental health therapists? Is it napping pods, company retreats? Oh, motivational posters on the walls, morning cheers, video game stations. This is Jawbone, a wearable technology company that raised $1 billion in venture funding and became valued at $3.2 billion. They allowed employees to bring their pets to work and had a designated dog park right there in their office. The once $3.2 billion company went bankrupt in 2017. Fab.com, an e-commerce company, once valued at over $1 billion, offered employees creatively designed office spaces, including a Lego-themed lounge and a treehouse-themed conference room. But Fab didn't innovate fast enough, and the once $1 billion company was sold for parts for only $15 million. Theranos, a health technology company, raised $9 billion in venture funding and promised to revolutionize the medical industry. They provided employees with an on-site gym, yoga classes, and wellness programs. But we all know how that turned out. They had a notoriously horrible and toxic culture that fostered an unparalleled level of fear, deception, and shocking treatment of its employees, leading to the suicide of their chief scientist, in which Elizabeth Holmes reacted with disconcern and a cold heart. And as you know, she's doing the perp walk, going to the pokey for a very long time. So, back to the all-important question. How do you shape culture? Now that you know it's not all the romper room, adult daycare, and frat house stuff that you've read about and been told you should provide. Here's the reality in answering the question, how do you shape culture? The answer is, you don't. It evolves around the people who make up the company. Your culture is a character expression of the people who make it up. Culture is an outcome. It's an expression of the attributes that make up the people in the culture. Company culture is defined as a set of shared values, goals, attitudes, and attributes, as in behaviors, that characterize an organization. So then, here's the key point. You can only hire for the culture that you want. The only way to shape culture is to focus on hiring people who have the character of the culture you want. And just as important, if not more so, getting out those who derail it. And I'll talk you through both here today. So that was your first of the 6 vital factors, culture. But here's the thing about culture. Culture becomes a result of the other 5 factors that we will attack here vigorously. If your culture becomes a character expression of the people who make up the organization, then that leads us to number 2. People. People are the second vital factor. Just like a head coach of every championship sports team, this is their primary concern, getting the right players, finding the right people and building the right team. That is what dictates all that they can achieve. Vinod Khosla, the co-founder of Microsystems, said a company becomes the people it hires, not the plan it makes. That means it won't be your mission. It won't be your vision. It won't be your goals, your ambition. It won't be all the strategies we've taught you or plans that you make that will determine your success or fate. It will become the people you hire. Hear that. Your legacy, your future, your fortune, your security, the security and future of your family, your day-over-day lifestyle will not be your fastidious plans. It will be the people you hire. That should alarm you. And today, it's the number 1 concern for CEOs. Attracting and retaining talent, regardless of the size of company or the industry that you're in. 65% of growth companies fail due to people problems. Wrong hires, wrong roles, lousy culture, and poor relationships amongst colleagues. 65%. That's the cause. You can have the right mission, the right goals, the right plan, the right products, and have the wrong people and fail. What you need to understand is people are the linchpin here. As Richard Branson said, I'll let him say it to you directly.
A company consists of one thing, really. If I buy a plane from Boeing, it'll be exactly the same plane that BA will buy, which will be exactly the same plane that United will buy, and exactly the same plane that Canada will buy. So what is a company? A company is the people that are working inside that plane, the people that are working on the ground. They either make this company exceptional or average.
It's such a profound thing to think about. All the airlines buy exactly the same Boeing airplanes. And the only thing that distinguishes the difference between the airlines are the people that the airlines put in the planes. That determines the entire experience. Same thing. Everybody sells the same basic mortgages. Every dentist is basically providing the same solution. Every roofer provides the same materials. Every home designer, it's all the same, except for the people that make up the organization completely determine the experience the client has on the other side of it. Richard went on to say that there's no point in saying people are your greatest asset in your company. He said people are your company. Businesses are not P&L statements, balance sheets, systems and processes, tactics and strategies, tasks and deliverables. Businesses are people. People serving people, which means if you get the people right, the people will take care of the rest. So as the leader, here's an important point. As the leader, as a business owner, moving from labor to an enterprise that can operate without you, I want you to know that you are not in the dental business, chiropractic business, financial advising, real estate business, contract manufacturing business, engineering business, e-commerce business. That's not the business you're in. As the leader, as the business owner, moving from labor to an enterprise that can operate without you, you are in the people business, which just happens to sell financial advisory services, chiropractic services, dental services, engineering, contract manufacturing. As Howard Schultz from Starbucks said to me, he said, we're in the people business serving coffee, not in the coffee business serving people. As the leader, your business is the people driving the business. If you, as the leader, take care of and grow the people will take care of and grow the business. So that's vital factor number 2, people. Now, if people determines your culture and your culture determines your destiny, then that means vital factor number 3 has to be recruiting the right people. The people you need to build the culture you want. That's the 3rd vital factor. Your success, your ability to achieve your mission, fund the financial welfare of your family will come down to your competency of being able to recruit high-performing talent. So this is where we're going to spend some time. This begins the areas where I know you need the most help. USC reported 90% of business problems are recruiting problems in disguise. As Jack Welch said to me directly, he said, the team that fields the best players wins. Period. Simple as that. The team that fields the best players wins. He said, the game is won or lost before kickoff, before the first pitch, before the jump ball. The best businesses that become the best are the ones who have recruited, retained, and led the best people. Marketplace war happens at the hiring table, not in advertising, not in the engineering department, and not at the shareholders meeting. Hiring. Get that right, and the advertising, engineering, and accounting and shareholder value will be taken care of. As Jim Collins concluded, the single most important thing you need to do as a leader, as a business owner, is pick the right people and keep them. There's nothing more important than this. The most important decisions leaders make is not what decisions, but the who decisions. So CEOs should see themselves as CROs, Chief Recruiting Officers. You have to see recruitment as one of your most important jobs. As the publication The Economist stated, finding the right people is the single biggest problem in business today. And this can become your advantage if you get it right. Only 1 in 2 companies have a business strategy. Less than a third have a talent strategy. So your highest priority as the leader is getting the right people in the right positions, doing the right things, and getting the wrong people, positions, and priorities out quickly. Companies with the right people in the right roles have 42% lower turnover And not having the right people in the right positions doing the right things is what creates the most drama and stress in a company. Let me try to put it as simply as I possibly can to you. Winning in the marketplace, accomplishing your big goals, achieving your mission, making your big impact, your legacy, and how your life will be remembered comes down to one 4-letter word. You ready? One 4-letter word. Here we go. H-I-R-E. Hire. Who can you hire? After leading by example, casting a compelling vision, this is your most vital priority and responsibility. And often it is the most neglected. So if that didn't grab you by the throat so that you rearrange your allocation of time, energy, love, and resources, let me see if I can grab you by the wallet and scare you straight. If you remember those back in the day, where we tried to scare kids straight from taking drugs. This is your brain, an egg. This is your brain on drugs on a frying pan, all right? Don't take drugs. Let me see if I could scare you straight on prioritize hiring. 65 to 80% of all your operating costs, all your expenses are consumed in salaries and wages. 65 to 80% of all your costs are in salaries and wages. And the cost of hiring the wrong person is 6 to 15 times their annual salary. This is what most leaders don't understand the math on. The cost of hiring the wrong person is 6 to 15 times their annual salary, not just what you paid them while they were there. Now, how can that be? How can it be a 6 times multiple? Here's why. Number one, the time and labor and money that you spent in hiring them originally, the orientation and training time that you spent to get them on board. 2, the money you paid them. 3, the time and money that you're going to have to spend to repeat that process because they were a failure. 4, the opportunity cost that was wasted during that entire period of time. And 5, the rehabilitation cost to the rest of your team by having injected it with cancer and then had to do the chemo in order to get it rooted out, and the time it takes to recover from that abuse for your entire team. That's the consequence of hiring the wrong person. Harvard Business Review reports 46% of new hires are no longer with a company in 18 months, which means most leaders of every company suck at this. It's a huge area of low-hanging fruit to focus attention, time, and resources at. Because this is such a consequential part of your business, because it consumes so much in expenses, impacting the bottom line sharply, you only have to improve your success rate by 25%, become a quarter better to 2x your results. If you get this right, then with the same payroll and the same number of people, probably less, with less headaches and stress, you can 2 to 3 times your business and productive output. So that's the brass ring at the end of this. That's the promise at the end of the hard work. This skill is more critical now than ever. As we are going through this great labor restructuring, our technologies are racing ahead, but our skills and organizations are lagging behind. Our economic system used to be based at, when growing, just throwing bodies at the problem. Throwing low EQ, low skilled labor at a problem. Growth meant just hiring more people in your call center, hiring more people for the warehouse, hiring more people in accounts receivable, hiring more client service department people. And so, because that's what we used to do, we have a glut of these low skill, low EQ workforce people. Simultaneously, technology has been replacing many of those low skill human jobs with bots and AI and robotics and 3D printing, etc. And so that leaves us with an oversupply glut of low EQ, low skilled people, because technology's replaced most of those frontline human touch points. But now all of those lower level positions being replaced leaves us with a glut of people out there with low EQ skills, but a high demand for them, causing a massive supply and demand problem, making the competition for the high EQ candidates even bloodier. And this is why we have as McKinsey called it, a war for talent in the 21st century. And this is a war that preceded the pandemic, before this great labor restructuring. McKinsey Company report that the most important asset will not be technology, global positioning, or operational agility. It will be human capital. Finding and retaining talented people will be the most valued company resource over the next 20 years. It will also be the resource in shortest supply. They say, quote, "The search for the best and brightest will become a constant, costly battle. Not only will companies have to devise more imaginative hiring practices, they will also have to work harder to keep their best people." And those stats were before the pandemic. Now, it's important to understand how we got here, okay? Why the labor force is so different today. Why expectations from the labor force are so different today. And how leadership, you and I, have to adapt. The people in the workforce today have been acculturated by and taught by people who came through three entirely different ages. These are not rebellions. These are cultural shifts based on an evolving society, which is why there is such a misunderstanding and misinterpretation of each other's values, expectations, and judgments. So briefly here, okay, so that you understand how we got here and why these expectation differentiations exist and how you can adapt to them. The industrial age, at the turn of the century, jobs were hard to find. They were very scarce. Finding and keeping a job was sacred. It was a blessing to even have a job. They were so hard to come by. And employers got away with murder. In some cases, literally murder. Carnegie was known to have had an employee who tried to start a union movement in his company taken out to the back lot and shot with no repercussions. He could because the motivation and desire of a worker during this age was survival. You took a job for subsistence, to fulfill your basic necessities, hopefully enough for food on the table and some semblance of a roof over your head. There are people in the workforce who came from that acculturation, or they were parented by a generation who were acculturated with that mindset. Next is the information age. Associated with the development of the transistor in 1947 and lasting through the Great Recession of 2008, the primary drive and desire of a worker during this 60-year age was prosperity. Workers no longer needed to worry about survival. Their parents and grandparents took care of that. Now, without survival to worry about, workers could focus on increasing their standard of living, getting that bigger and better house, driving that much nicer car, taking those fancy vacations, funding your kids' crazy expensive college educations. These are the primary drivers of boomers and their kids, Gen Xers. Now, today, we're in what you call the digital age, okay? The primary drives and desires of the workers today are radically different. Now, why? Why are they so different? Here's why. Because they can be. Workers don't have to worry about survival. Their grandparents took care of that. Now today, workers are afforded the opportunity to expect lifestyle. They can and are making work choices based primarily around the life they want to lead, purpose, freedom, flexibility, and even fun, if you can believe that. Not the money that they will need to live, or even the money that they need to live well. By the way, you don't have to like or agree with this expectation. You just need to see the reality of it. The fact is, with each succeeding generation, and the greater our society's prosperity, and the more abundant opportunities afforded by the digital age, the less loyalty workers have to any one employer. To the point, where there really isn't any loyalty at all. As I said in one of the Q&A sessions, they're all a volunteer army. They all can pick up and go at any one time, regardless of whether they're W-2, 1099, or straight volunteers. They're all a volunteer army. Now, for some of us older folk, while this is befuddling, frustrating, if not even maddening to builders, boomers, and us Gen Xers, you should congratulate yourself because you did this. It was you and your parents who made these now indulgent choices possible. You created this prosperity. While workers today might not be making the choices that you'd make because you were acculturated during a totally different age. So your perspective and your drive and your motivations are different. At least now, hopefully, you know why they can and are making different choices, and why they are motivated differently than you are, and why the gambits that you're using to try to recruit and keep top talent, things like raises and bonus incentives and titles and perks, things that might work on you, aren't working on workers today. I will tell you what does work here in a second, but at least now, hopefully, you know why. Why your instincts are off sync. Making better sense of it now, I'm hoping so, okay? But that's not all. It gets worse. Now enter the pandemic. We were already living through the digital age. There had already been an extreme skilled worker shortage. And then the pandemic hits. And then everybody of any generation simultaneously experiences a collective shock and an existential threat to our existence. And everybody suddenly comes face to face with their mortality. What am I doing with my life? During the global lockdowns, with everybody forced to shut down, to hit the pause button on their treadmill of life, and people finally getting some distance from the dysfunction that they might have been wound up in, too tight, too close to even notice, they start to really contemplate their life and their existence. And hundreds of millions of people simultaneously had what are called pandemic epiphanies. And this causes this great reassessment. People reevaluated their life choices and are now making new career choices around new priorities, reclarified values, and a desired lifestyle. It's important to know that workers aren't leaving the workforce. They're just leaving where they were, the working conditions they had before or during the pandemic. And they are changing where they're going to, what they are looking for, and what they won't tolerate any longer. This is why it is not really the Great Resignation. It is really the Great Reshuffle and everybody's great reassessment. You can also call it the Great Aspiration. Workers are now looking to make better life choices, having how they want to live be at the center of those choices, and having their job fit around that, versus having their life try to fit around their job. In this great aspiration reshuffle is where many employers will be left behind and in the lurch, the ones who don't adapt. A lot of employers are going to have to come to grips with this. It is not that people don't want to work, it's that they don't want to work for you. Meanwhile, others who have and build the right culture, then know how to market that culture and proactively recruit, vet aggressively, and onboard correctly, and then know how to lead a stable of talented A players in this reshuffle can become your great advantage. And you'll learn how today. We can make you the winner in this war for talent. But it requires you changing, you improving, you adjusting to the realities of this new work landscape and culture, not the other way around. Success in today's market requires a very different leadership style. Command and control, the style of yesteryear, is causing today's workforce to flee in mass. This is a massive move from self-interest, shareholder interest, to a focus on purpose, meaning, and making a positive impact, and having a desirable lifestyle for everyone involved. leading not just with your head, but with your heart as well. This is a shift from IQ leaders to EQ leaders, from intelligent, smart, strategic leaders to emotionally intelligent leaders. Of course, you still need to be really smart and strategic, but it's a combination of the two, both head and heart. This is the largest labor market shift we've ever seen in the history of our humanity, by far. And most have not made the shift. And it's precisely why I went through the brutal labor of building the hero's journey leadership curriculum, to build the skills and EQ of becoming a modern leader, because the landscape has changed dramatically. And after all the hubbub about what is different and what workers are looking for and what you need to do as an employer, it all comes down to only 3 major adjustments between today and pre-2020. You can fight the wind, or you could just set a different sail. It's your call. Leaders complain all the time. These kids these days, these employees these days. The reality is you better join them or be beat by them. Because here's the deal. There's a hell of a lot more of them. They aren't going to adjust to you. You have to adjust to them. You have to at least know the choice structure and what's in the head and heart of your target labor market. The demand currently consists of these factors: flexibility, freedom, and meeting. Let me walk you through so that you can reorient and better package your proposition. First off is flexibility. Look, the genie is out of the bottle on remote working and the flexible lifestyle. Everyone who said remote work couldn't be done or said they didn't want to do it suddenly had to do it. And guess what? Most really liked it. And it was proven it was really productive. Today, 45% of people are still working partial or fully remote. 9 in 10 remote workers want to stay remote. Only 9% want to return back to the office full time. 64% of workers at employers, including Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and the like, would rather work from home than receive a $30,000 raise. See, they can do that because they still have rich parents and grandparents who can take care of them. Across all industries and companies, 54% of remote or hybrid workers would consider leaving their role if the company made them return to the office 5 days a week. Half the workforce would say, if you make them go back to the office, just the way they were in 2019. Here's why they want to stay remote, just so that you know. And I'm not saying you have to go remote at all. I'm not saying you have to do hybrid. I'm not saying this at all. I'm just telling you the way the winds are blowing, okay? You choose. They want to stay remote to avoid commute, for better well-being, to balance with their family obligations, to feel more productive, and have fewer distractions. I mean, there's not a more distracting environment on God's green earth, besides maybe the middle school playground, than an office with a collection of human apes sitting and standing and walking around. I mean, it is just a cesspool of constant, never-ending, ceaseless gossip and distraction. So, anyway, you can tell I'm pretty biased to virtual. And there are major benefits to employer too. Work from home can save office rent. Benefits can be given in lieu of raises. Work from home benefits means that you can hire people in cheaper locations. And work from home benefits means that you can avoid having to do layoffs. The number one driver of attrition today is inflexibility. Okay, that's what you're solving for. Even if it's not remote, providing somehow, some way, more flexibility for your employees. And remote-friendly companies are experiencing a 33% lower turnover, which is huge. Again, I want to repeat this. I'm not saying you need to offer remote work. I'm just showing you the trend, the desirability of the current labor market. The choice is yours. There will be plenty of in-office only companies who will be very successful. Although, just know, it will be harder to find those who want to be in an in-office only type of company. That's all. Doesn't mean it's not possible. It just means it's harder. I just want to show you where the trend lines are. So that was flexibility. Next is freedom. Freedom means autonomy. 7 in 10 indicate that they'd pass up a promotion in favor of the opportunity to work anytime from anywhere. Now that's an eye-popping number, and one that leaders would be wise to pay attention to. 40% of job seekers are looking for remote-only positions. That's your labor pool. Freedom equals autonomy. Autonomy is our desire to self-direct, to have control over our lives, over our calendar, over our time, energy, and attention. Traditional management was all about compliance, getting people to do what you wanted them to do. That doesn't work in our modern workforce culture. Again, it doesn't mean you have to be 100% remote, but what it means is you have to provide more flexibility, more freedom, more autonomy, so they have some locus of control over how, when, where they work. For you as the leader, and this is my philosophy, I only give a shit about results, about outcomes, about output, right? We just care about results. I don't care when, how, what you're doing. Get us the results. The modern definition of success now means having more control over when, how, and where people work. Success means using your preferred devices and tools to maximize your personal productivity. Success means working around your lifestyle, not the other way around. Around your family obligations and daily rhythms. Autonomy means having a voice, having a say over how they work, a voice to improve how they work. As humans, we have a strong motive to control our environment. When we lose control, we feel powerless, and often we just give up, which is the reason why you just get droids as employees. It's like, all right, if you can just tell me what to do all the time, forget it. I'll just wait until you give me the next order. When you give people autonomy, when you give them back a sense of personal control, they light up. Their capacity blossoms and blooms in ways you couldn't even expect. This is a really important insight for leadership. Whether leading in the office or in the home, those you are trying to empower need to feel they have power, that they have some control over their environment, over their choices, over their schedule. Most people's reality is 80-20, 80 good, 20 bad. They will leave you even though they have the 80 to go find the 20. Just give them a voice over their 20, a chance to change it, a chance to modify it, to suit them and you. Of course, results for the organization, mission achievement, priority, but give them a voice over how to modify, adjust, and improve it. By the way, as an aside, this control can be completely illusionary, okay? This is as an aside. Did you know that most elevators, since the early 1990s, the door close button doesn't actually work? It activates nothing. Only with an emergency key inserted does it. But it satisfies people to believe it does. The same is true for most crosswalk buttons, door open buttons on trains, and most HVAC systems in office buildings and hotel ballrooms. The air temperature is controlled centrally. The thermostats are dummy, but give a user a sense of control. Thus, they are satisfied. There's a guy I know who owns a large HVAC company, and he told me about one office with 30 women where they could never get the temperature to an agreeable level, and it created a constant, never-ending passive-aggressive battle. And his suggestion was that they install 20 dummy thermostats around the office. Everybody was told that each thermostat controlled the zone around themselves. He said, problem solved. Now that everybody has control over their own thermostat, there is no problem. Fascinating, right? More evidence of our predictable, irrational behavior. We'll talk more about creating this real and inspired sense of control over choice and actions as we move forward. So that was flexibility and freedom. And finally, meaning. Organizations can make jobs sticky by investing in more meaning, in more belonging, and stronger team and other relational ties. Here's what's important to understand. People today, as always, but particularly today, seek psychological fulfillment from work. The legacy of the pandemic is that it gave everybody an elong moment to question the meaning of who we are and what the hell we're doing. In that psychological pause, a desperately needed crisis of meaning emerged. It forced us to face the unpredictability of life and reflect on what truly matters. Now, millions have realized that work, or at least their present work, does not give them the meaning that they were promised. As a result, people today don't want their lives to revolve around their jobs anymore. Workers now want their jobs to fit into the kind of life they want to live. Employers are being forced to realize that they no longer have power over or the power to control workers. After everyone's pandemic epiphanies, more than ever, people are seeking a sense of purpose in their work. You, as the leader, provides that for them, you win. You suck up the talent from the pool. Deloitte reports 76% of workers now prioritize a company's values and purpose when deciding where to work. A players want to be part of something bigger, important, something special, meaningful, and rewarding. A players want to do something that makes a difference. They want to be part of a big and positive impact. They want to do something that matters, a chance to do something great, where their time, energy, and abilities matters. Gallup even found that 78% of millennials, which, by the way, millennials make up more than 75% of the workforce today, by the way. They even say that they would take a pay cut to find a job that matches their values. And they're doing it all day, every day. People who find meaning from their roles are more productive and outperform their peers and competitors. Your number one talent priority is helping employees find purpose. This is the mistake, the assumptions that leaders are making about this great reshuffle. Many of the articles that you read about why employees are leaving for greener pastures is for more money. That is true only in the absence of meaning, as in meeting their more important needs. Then, in the absence of that, yes, they will default back to money will matter. But just know, it's a default. It's a fallback option. They left for money because you had no other value to offer. Just like in marketing products or services that we covered the last 2 days. In the absence of value, a compelling offer, then yes, you will be judged on price, but only in the absence of other value, more important value, the other 8 of the 10 reasons why they buy. As the leader, you have to constantly pay attention to both compensation and cultural factors. In fact, those that did leave for money are already regretting it. Their great resignation has turned into their great regret. 20% regret quitting without options, and 72% of those who quit to go elsewhere experienced either surprise or regret that the new position or new company that they quit their job for turned out to be, quote unquote, very different from what they were led to believe. And get this, nearly half, 48% of these workers said that they would try to get their old job back. The bottom line is this, comes down to 3 things. Wages not making the list. Get these right and you win. Team. We are a social species that wants to belong and bond with like-minded, like-attitude tribe of people that we want to be more like. Trust. We want autonomy, freedom, and esteem. This is their life, after all, and it is the 21st century. They won't settle for somewhere where they are not treated like an adult, where they are not trusted, respected, and appreciated. And then third, purpose. They want to feel significant. We've moved up the hierarchy of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's no longer survival. Now it's self-enlightenment. They want to feel significant, that their role and the role of the organization serves the world. They want to be proud to tell their friends and family what they do and where they work and what that organization does. Okay, you got that baseline? Now let's help you solve your recruiting problem. Now that you understand the ethos, the mentality of the market, let's help you solve your recruiting problem. Get you who you want. Okay, I just want to show you some light at the end of the tunnel here, okay? This recruiting day is what made Mike's results possible. Mike has a real estate company, a real estate construction company, and a real estate management company. And over the 3 years that he's been coming to BMC, these are his results. In his real estate sales, revenue grew from 30 to 400 million, which is a 13 times growth. Simultaneously, his real estate construction company grew from 13 to 135 million. That's 10 times growth. And his real estate management company also grew 63% over those 3 years while maintaining 40% net profits. And he said the only way that was possible was mastering this, being able to recruit the right talent that drove and made those results possible. He said all this was accomplished through hiring the right leaders and figuring out what I wanted through the lens at BMC. The crazy part about this is I was only in my office for 13 days the last 6 months, giving me the freedom to explore what I like doing with my family and friends. So if you like that, big results, 10x results, and freedom, that's what we're after here. I will show you now how to recruit anyone you want, anybody you want, and get them to do anything you want. Meaning, hardworking, fully engaged, willing to do whatever it takes to achieve your collected mission. Just know up front, this might be the hardest thing you ever do in your life. It's not easy. That's why few become the exception. But you'll have the formula. You'll know exactly how to do it. Let's walk you through it. Let's start with the first part, how you can recruit anyone you want. Before, I want to point out something important here. Because of the labor shortage and 2 generations in the workforce who've grown up in peace and prosperity, thus an exaggerated and self-indulgent sense of expectations and a grandiose sense of entitlement, you have to be far more selective and you have to vet far more aggressively than you had to in the past. You can because you are a small to mid-sized business versus a large corporation. So you only need a small number. So you want to be super selective. I have this conversation with my team. I've had it with my chief of staff as well. And so I understand that's the general trend, but we want to find the exception. I get that's how people show up to meetings these days, casual and just, all the rest. But I want to find somebody who was raised right, who has the right expectations, who has a good sense of personal judgment. I don't care if this is the general ethos. I'm looking for the exception. I don't need 10,000 or 100,000, so then I've got to go through the unwashed masses and then be their parenting finishing school. I want to find the few amongst the mass, pluck those who have been parented expertly, have a sense of self and personal judgment. Those are the ones we want on this illustrious, small and mighty team of 2018 players. So even though I gave you the whole reality of what the labor market is, I just want you to know you still have control. You get to pick. You get to make the choice. And here's the thing, you don't need that many. It's so great to be a small to mid-sized company. Again, if you were a big pharmaceutical company, you really do have to deal with the mass reality of what the labor market looks like. But you don't have to. You want to find, not fix. There are a lot of humans out there that are products of an entitled society and terrible parenting. You don't want your business to be a finishing school, trying to finish what their parents didn't do. You get to pick. So, let's be really selective. Let's identify really clearly what you want. Like in the sales and marketing section, too often you don't even know what you're looking for. That's why we went through the labor of getting clear about your avatar and then getting clear about where they exist if you don't know clearly what you want. Because you're unclear exactly what you want and need. You first have to know what your A player looks like, sounds like, shows up like, behaves like, thinks like. So let me help you build a framework to build their profile. You want to stretch your mind to the tippy top of our societal totem pole, to start, okay? You want to think of the most successful people you've observed in the world by your judgment. The people on the screen here might not be people who you think are most successful, but who do you think are the most successful people in the world? Now, what attributes would you use to describe them? So what words would you use to describe the people that you see on the screen, or the most successful people that you are aware of? Come up with 30 or 40 words that you would use to describe these people. Oprah, empathetic, smart. Tim Cook, strategic. The Rock, tough-minded, gritty, aggressive. Bill Gates, smart, insightful, right? Warren Buffett, affable. Just make a long list as you look at these names. Come up with a list of 20 to 40 attributes. This is just to get your mind thinking about the kind of attributes the most successful people in the world possess. That's number one. Thinking through the lens of the most successful people in the world. Then, what I want you to do is to think about the most successful people in your industry. So not just the world, because the attributes of a Tim Cook or an Oprah or The Rock might not be relevant to your industry. Those aren't the attributes that will be successful in your industry. So now take it from the macro and bring it down into a little bit of the micro. Your industry. Think of the most successful people in your industry and write down 20 to 40 attributes. You're going to do this later. I'm just walking you through it now, okay? What are the attributes of the most successful people in your industry? And then next, what are the attributes most important and needed to achieve your mission? This is really important because the attributes I need to achieve my mission are probably different than the attributes Forrest Beck needs to achieve his mission, or Jeff Johnston, or Keith Pearson, or Diana Holshoe, or Samuel, or Daniel, or Patrick. All your missions are different. And so you need different attributes that are important to achieving that unique mission. And then next is in your company. When you think of the most successful people in your company, how would you describe them? What are their attributes? Write those attributes down to be successful in your company. And then as you build your bigger vision, what are the attributes you need for that mission, okay? That's the framework. Structure. Just to make a big list of attributes and try to get it from the macro to the micro, from success as a whole down to being successful in your industry, successful in your company, successful for the achievement of your big new mission. Ultimately then, you want to narrow them down to 12. To come down with 12 attributes most important to achieving your mission in your company, to dominate your industry, to make your great legacy possible in the world. 12. Now, these 12 attributes will become your culture. They will become the personality expression of your culture. They will become the ethos, the philosophy, the mindset, the behavior set of your culture. These 12 attributes will define your culture. And let me give you a key point here. It has to be a fit for purpose. Make sure that you understand the priorities. These key attributes need to fit around, first of all, you as the leader. See, there are certain attributes of the people in my organization that I need to fit with me. The way I operate, as the leader, as the alpha of this tribe, these attributes first need to fit with me. Your attributes need to fit with you. You set the tone. You're the alpha of your tribe. It's really important you understand. What are your personal preferences? You don't do this by committee. You do this from the alpha. What are the attributes most important to you that you want to become the character expression of your culture to achieve your mission? Then they have to fit the purpose of the mission. Then they fit the purpose of the culture of your team. And then, important point, they have to fit the growth stage you're in. Because as you're at different stages of growth, your attributes might change. Because what you need as a startup organization is different than what you need when you are going through hyperscale. It's like the people that you need to get you out of Egypt, the warriors, the fighters, the brutal fighting that has to go on to get you released from slavery out of Egypt is different than the attributes you need for the long, hard, arduous trek to the promised land across the desert. So you want to adjust the attributes that are important to your culture as your company evolves. And then you want to develop your core 12 attributes of what it is to be an A player on your team. And again, very different for different organizations. And you want to name your values not as words, but as things that we do. Your core attributes should dictate behavior, the actions you take, not philosophical ideas. Ask yourself, are the attributes and values we have on the walls happening in the halls, physically and virtually? Do they translate into behavior and guide decisions? That's what those 12 need to be. These are ours, but you have to come up with your own. You can't copy these. If you do that, you're going to disrupt your ability to achieve your mission and your ability to create a cohesive culture, because some of these might not be the most important attributes for you, the alpha of your tribe. So you have to come up with your own. That's why I took you through that framework. The world, your industry, your company, your mission, and it has to fit for purpose, okay?